So this is just showing inspiration, how inspired artists have been about Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah, this slide is more about seeing that the creative essence of the movie gets to affect everyone in a different way. And you know that every artist would have like a different style and interpretation
Mm-hmm.
with some characters, but you can see that the dynamic that Sophie and Hal will have in every illustration is more or less the same here. So that's when you know that you have really well developed characters.
Yeah.
When this stuff translates really well. So we're about to find out why Howl's Moving Castle is such a cool movie.
All right. Is that a segue into slide two?
Hell yeah.
Good job. Howl's Moving Castle takes significantly from the steampunk genre, as well as its subgenre, gas lamp fantasy. And you want to tell us a little bit about gas lamp fantasy, Wisteria?
So Gaslam Fantasy might sound a bit weird, a bit new, because it's this really niche type of thing. So you can see that I made like a little diagram. What is it called? A little something. There you can see what is it made out of. So we have the concept of gas lamps. So the period when gas lamps were around. Combined with magic and with gothic, and that creates the mood, the vibe, the aesthetic of gas lamp fantasy.
Yeah, I think I hadn't really heard of gaslamp fantasy before it's a term, but I think I
Mhm.
like it even more than steampunk. But probably because I'm more into the magic side than the sci-fi side, which steampunk is a little more into the sci-fi.
Yeah, well, I think it's still steampunk, but it
Hmm.
has the gothic and the magic aspect to it. So it's a bit spiced up.
Yeah, and I think we'll talk a little bit more about it here as well too.
Yeah, so I think that in this like um steampunk genre, we have like other similar subgenres that I think there's one subgenre for like every taste.
Hmm.
So everyone can vibe with something. I put together like a teeny tiny list, but you can like Google even more. And I think there's everything for just like different aesthetics. Because we have solar punk and cyberpunk and space punk and nanopunk, and it's just a lot of things.
Yeah, all you have to do is find a word and put punk on the end, like gnome punk, or
Wismore punk.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Fairy punk.
Yeah.
There we go. That's our genre. We're fairy punk. Or maybe folklore punk, cryptid
I
punk.
have an idea, but I don't know if it's working.
What?
I don't know how many people would be into skunk punk.
Just because it rhymes?
No, because of the whole concept. I don't know how much skunk aesthetic you want to have around.
As long as it's not a smell aesthetic, it's fine.
So we are dropping the perfume line.
Actually, I would like to do a perfume line, but not
With
skunk.
the skunk. Oh, okay.
Not skunk. More like deer musk, elk musk.
Mm.
Okay, before we get too weird, let's move on to slide three. Yeah.
Yeah. We are gonna gently segue from Wismore's Wild Dreams to one of our amazing slides. And here we get to see other movies and actually a book based around the same aesthetic. So we have Queen Victoria's Book of Spells, and it's like a bunch of stories in the same kind of aesthetic. So if you're like really looking to um, just explore your characters more and you feel like they're in this aesthetic, you should look for books that kind of follow the same gaslamp fantasy vibe.
Hmm. Yeah, I didn't even realize arcane was in this sub genre,
Hmm.
but I totally see it now.
Yeah, well, it kind of like borrows a lot from other subgenres, so you can like really pinpoint it, but it does have a lot of gaslamp fantasy.
Oh yeah, it's definitely got the magic and the Victorian vibe.
Mm-hmm. So then we have Treasure Planet, which you can definitely see. They have a ton of magic going on with those ships that are flying through the sky.
Yeah.
Almost, you could say that it's almost like Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then we have Atlantis, the Lost Empire. And they do a bunch of steampunk and then a bunch of magic when they actually find Atlantis and their inhabitants and how they do magic through some kind of like stones and everything.
Yeah, kind of like a lost technology, ancient magic technology.
And then we have Crimson Peak, which is actually a live action. And this movie is steampunk in the way that the main character Thomas wanted to build this clay mining machine that was powered by coal, so therefore like steam. Um, and it has the element of goth and the element of magic, but not magic in the way that you'd imagine it. More like magic,
Supernatural.
yeah, supernatural and paranormal, something like that.
Yeah.
It deals a lot with ghosts and everything, but we'll go more in depth into it on our next movie analysis.
Yeah, this is a bit of a teaser, a preview of what's happening for December.
Because it's the time of year to get creepy, right?
Yeah. Cold and creepy.
Yeah.
Okay, slide 4.
Yep.
So, incorporating French, German, and Austrian architecture to create a representation that demonstrates the Edwardian era. Both the human machinery and magic can coexist in the film. And neoclassicism is the most prevalent in the ornate European-inspired architecture, as well as the maximalism movement defining the aesthetic of steampunk. All right, so you've got a lot of terms in there that art historians, non-art historians, might not be aware of.
Okay, so here I just kind of went quickly through all of them because we are gonna dissect them all in the future slides, but I touched on them because it's really interesting how from a really let's say like a Japanese studio, you get to see movies that are so like heavily European inspired.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because the art director, which was like really hands-on this movie, Hayao Miyazaki, he did his studies in Switzerland, a bit in Germany, so he was like around Europe a lot. And him and his co-art director, I don't know his name, but they directed most of Ghibli movies.
Okay.
They did their studies together here, so he was really impressed by the German and architecture and just the neoclassicism, movement.
Yeah. So do you find buildings like this in Germany?
No, but like elements of the architecture.
Yeah, it's totally European. I was making a joke about that pile of chunk on
But
chicken
I
legs.
know like one specific structure like this that looks like exactly like this, but it's like a home. It's like a private home,
Mm-hmm.
and a certain fox boy lives into it. Let's segue to another slide. Hello, fox boy.
Okay. Is this where Foxboy lives?
Yeah, he gathers a lot from different styles and just like has them all in one room. And you could say that it's like a collection of cool stuff. Other people say it's hoarding, but I call it maximalism.
Yeah, I think I do enjoy maximalism because I want to have a room like Dang, I already forgot his name. Howl.
Howl.
He's in the movie. He's the title of the movie. But yeah, check out that room. It's similar colors to what I use in my room too.
Yeah, I feel like if I leave you enough to do it, your room is gonna look like that eventually.
Mm-hmm. Run out of storage space and then just start hanging stuff from the ceiling.
Yeah, like, it's not a bad look,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like it's so you. I
Yeah,
mean,
it does kind of have an Eastern European vibe too.
with those, again, we are going back to the gypsy caravans that are
Yeah,
full of stuff like this.
yeah. So you've got like East and West European
hmm
going on here. So you're saying maximalism is the art of more is more, as opposed to minimalism where less is more. And layered patterning, highly saturated colors. Yes, we love that. Ample accessories and art. A real sense of playfulness and bold gestures. We have a real sense of playfulness, and we make bold gestures.
You refer to my wing flapping?
Yeah,
Okay.
and
So,
my howls to the moon, my wheezes to the moon.
yep. We are some really bold creatures. And it's not at all referring to how I run into trees at all.
That's a
Do
bold
you
gesture.
see the bathroom up there in the corner?
Yeah, top left.
I feel like you can just fill up a space with plants so well and call it a style, the maximalist style.
Yeah, so you've got like a bunch of green with, the greenery, and then if you have little red trinkets you can dangle along with them or make part of the pots, and then like some purple in there too and some gold. Yeah,
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 and at this point, any other person that isn't into art would say that, okay, so let's keep the walls at least white or something because we don't want to look crazy, but actually it just ruins the vibe. So you might as well go with like bold colors on the walls too and
yeah.
make it like really well color coordinated, do some patterns here and there, and you are like crazy all the way, which is actually called a style. Guys, here we are definitely not brainstorming our future house. This move. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the silence came in. We were lost in daydreaming. And I was thinking about the crane wallpaper on the next image over there would look better than whatever beige they've got going on in that first image.
But I feel like it's such a bright room, and even if you see it in like a nursery, it wouldn't be bad. You see, all the nurseries are barely having some tint. It's like baby blue, but I see it as gray, and everything is so muted that for the first 5 years of a kid's life, that kid thinks that he's colorblind.
Yeah.
So let's do something like that.
Okay. Maximize the baby room.
Yep, it would be a really extravagant baby.
So all throughout, though, more than just in Howl's bedroom, you've got this maximalist style going.
Yeah, so even in the main room, I don't know, I wouldn't want to say the living room, but where Calcifer is and where they were eating and everything, you can see all the ingredients on the table, which I don't know by refrigeration rules if that's all right. But it's a movie, so let's get over it. You would almost say that it's clutter, but if you have everything organized by, I don't know, just not having a piece of cheese on the ceiling or something. If it's like where it's supposed to be, it's not clutter and it's not hoarding.
I
So
think
there's like a certain pattern to where you put stuff, sorry.
I think one thing that might be happening here is you have the idea of a wizard who has all of these magical ingredients. So your magical ingredients are going to be of all different kinds of colors. And then you also have the idea of kind of like a mad scientist where they just have so many different trinkets and curiosities and concoctions and experiments. And how do you put them into a scene that makes them look good? And then you kind of come up with maximalism. Everything is working together, uh, and I think that it kind of comes out of who Howl is to bring that style to the forefront. Maybe that's
Yeah,
my
yeah, but it's like a good theory because can you imagine this whole movie having the minimalist, simple aesthetic of like IKEA or something?
yeah,
It wouldn't feel magical.
exactly. Yeah. All right, next. I'll come back if you need me to.
Hmm.
Wait, did I just went in reverse?
Yep.
There we go. Back and forward.
Back in time. So here I put three artists that get to define more of like the overall feeling of the clutter. So you have a certain amount of design in the clutter that you see in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
and as I said, it's inspired by neoclassicism.
Good job.
And thank you. I'm trying my best. And on the right side, we have some etchings by Giovanni Battista Piranesi, and they just they have like a steampunk feeling. You can kind of squint and see the steampunk style, so it like further emphasizes the fact that
Yeah. So
steampunk is like a clutter style.
Yeah, it's kind of a dystopian Victorian style. So
Yeah,
anything
you
that's
see
Victorian and cluttered or dirty and dystopian would kind of come across as steampunk.
in steampunk you see stuff like machinery made from pieces that were like from other pieces, so like repurposed stuff.
Right.
Nothing gets lost, everything gets repurposed. So this is exactly the style that they were going for. And compared to the Daniel Merriam, which he does these really mm, I'll say almost like Victorian kind of buildings.
Yeah, they are.
This is like a really mm, clean style. It has a certain pattern. You don't see clutter for no
And
reason.
I think this is used for the nobility and like their estates
Hmm.
in the movie.
Yeah, but the combination of clutter from steampunk, from
Mm-hmm.
the etchings we just discussed, with the regularity and the patterns that you see from Daniel Merriam,
Okay.
with just the space and the columns and the perspective that you get from architects like Giovanni Paolo Panini. He does his paintings. So he's actually like an architect
Mm-hmm.
by his main trade.
Right.
But he also does like sketches, paintings, whatever. So these three artists kind of get to give the main style for the movie. It balances it out. It makes it look noble enough, but cluttered enough to be interesting, but also kind of have the world have some substance and dimension.
Right. And I see this at the Capitol when the wizards are called to court. This looks very similar to those scenes for me.
You can move along.
Okay. All right, so this looks more like character design.
Yes, I think we touched on all the terms that we used.
Yeah,
So after we
neoclassicism, maximalism. Mm-hmm.
so after we explained a bit of everything, we get to have a closer look at the characters, and these are two sisters. But I wanted to point out something about their design because you might think of design as something that has to be related. So the characters need to look like they are from the same story. But if you look at them differently, you wouldn't say they are from the same story, and you wouldn't even say that they are sisters. But I think that just making sure that every costume and every design fits with the character's personality first, before it actually like merges with the cast and everything, is the most important thing.
Yeah, I think her sister does look more like her mom, and having um, Sophie look
Hmm.
different from like her mom and her sister sort of makes her stand out as like this this child is different from the rest of the family as well.
Yeah, kind of makes her stand out like the main character.
Hmm.
And one thing I always like to touch on when I talk about color theory is that there are certain colors that stand out more than others. So that's why you see main characters have a tint of blue or just have blue as their main design. Just like we see in Belle from Beauty and the Beast, when you see her in the um, town scene, when it's the song they're singing about this poor little provincial town. She's the only one dressed in blue, so you can spot her, even though there are like these um, far away scenes overlooking the town, and everyone just like busy with their stuff. And I think what's happening here is that Sophie isn't exactly dressed in blue. She's dressed more in like this turquoise dress, but you can see in the concepts the dress was actually green. But because the most prevalent color in Ghibli movies is green, it would really blend in with all the fields she would have to walk through
Hmm.
until she finds Howl's castle. So this was like a conscious decision to shift the green towards a blue to come up with the teal color.
And I think the green kind of helps with who she is as a character. So she's not as much like a heroic character where you would see like the blue and that going on. She's more of a young, like the. I wouldn't even say it's about a coming of age. It's just a love story with a young girl, and then you contrast that being shifted into being a really old lady.
Hmm.
So I think that's why green, and then this color, this hue of green was chosen because it speaks to who she is as a character.
Yeah, but as a character arc, you get to see her evolve so much because she embarks on this journey and meets Howl, and she is looking for a way to break the spell of being like an old woman.
Hmm.
But through a lot of twists of events, by the end of the movie, she ends up saving Howl.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of makes her the hero of the story because at the end of the story, her dress turns completely blue. We
Oh,
finished the movie with her dress being blue. It's not like the same dress, but she has
I
a
didn't even
dress with
notice.
like an apron, yeah, and it's completely blue. So, in our mind, she turns into this hero. She's in some kind of girl that is saved from whatever curse or something. She's not like a helpless maiden.
Yeah, I think most of the movie is more about the romance. But yeah, there's is the heroic arc at the end.
Yeah, and you get to see it translated through the colors of the outfits and everything. So you clearly get to see that she's not the same girl as the movie started out.
Yeah, and one thing I think I should say is that they do look very different, but it's also because they have very different jobs. But it is strange that Sophie, being a hatter, isn't a bit more extravagant because most hatters have extravagant hats. And then her sister, I forget her name, works in a like a restaurant or something, and she's serving people, so she's got that apron on, and she's very bubbly, and everybody loves her. Um, but it's also kind of you'll have different costumes according to what they do as a profession.
Yeah, I think that their costumes also reflects how people interact with them too, because
Yeah.
her sister is more like in this. Mm, like she's a waitress or a bartender or something. Um, so people always like admire her and say how pretty she is. So she has like constant attention on her compared to Sophie when she works alone in at that studio
Hmm.
for so many hours. So you can see how the attention around her shapes them into this kind of person that they are.
Yeah.
That's why at the beginning of the movie, when they are like talking about this warlock magician, about how he feeds onto beautiful girl's heart,
Hmm.
and I guess they were more like seeing the story heard from other people, so they actually imagine some kind of like creature ripping through the chest cage or something. But it's more like uh Howl leaves behind a lot of broken hearts,
Yeah, and it
where
kind
Sophie hurt.
of
Yeah,
sets up a little bit of intrigue too about who is this mysterious wizard.
yeah, but Sophie listens to those stories and she doesn't think twice about them, and she's just like, yeah, sure, he eats hearts. Uh-huh. Okay. And her sister actually believes it, and she's really terrified because she finds herself being pretty
Yeah.
by what the other people tell her.
Yeah.
So you can actually hear the monologue of Sophie when she says, I shouldn't be concerned because she doesn't consider herself as being pretty.
Right. Right. And then it does kind of set up, well, this is more, I guess, story wise, it does set up the contrast between Howl's extravagance and her um, modesty, or whatever the opposite of extravagance is, character wise. I guess,
Mm.
yeah, art wise too. So it's good to have two main characters that have contrasts between them.
And it's interesting to see how Howell just freaks out about everything about his appearance, and he puts a lot of
Yeah.
thought, and just a lot of his person is built upon his appearance, and he would just have his life. And basically, if he had to go through the same old man curse,
Right.
yeah, if the roles were reversed, but you don't see Sophie kind of freak out about, oh my gosh, I'm so old, I'm so ugly, I'm so wrinkly. She's more like, oh my god, these stairs are like really hard to climb. I have trouble like
Right.
breathing. I need to relax. I need to do this and that. And she's more concerned about the health aspect rather than the initial shock of like, oh my gosh, I'm really old.
Yeah. But this is interesting because in previous video analyses, we've talked about contrasts within characters, like different aspects of them that contrast and make them deeper characters. But this is how you can also visually make characters contrasting to make deeper stories as well.
Yeah, so basically, her curse is Howell's worst fear come
Mm-hmm.
to life.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's why he starts to freak out so much. And she kind of doesn't take him so seriously because she can't really relate to his struggles of not being pretty anymore or something.
Right.
She just literally can't see it.
Yeah, it just looks like a tantrum to her.
Yeah.
All right, ready for next slide?
Yeah.
So, what is this artwork from that we're looking at?
I wanted to introduce here some. This is still fan art.
Fan art. Okay.
Um, because it's nice to see what kind of characteristics other artists emphasize when we are talking about the same characters. Because obviously, I think everyone saw the movie and just how they look. but I wanted to take a look at these characters because they are more stylized and you can see more of their costume design really being inspired by these photographs and this mood board they have going on. So you can see the silhouette and you can see the time period that their costumes is inspired by.
Yeah, I do think
Mm,
the Witch of the Waste, her outfit is pretty interesting because you don't normally see witches dressed up like that. And then
yeah.
it's all very dark, which is also something you don't normally see in female dresses of that time period. I mean, there might be black and white, but not just like this black and purple and blue. But yeah, it made her stand out concept wise, just with her clothing.
I feel like with the Witch of the Waste, you would think that she would have the classic witch hat.
Hmm.
But if you have the entire costume based around that time, mm,
Like it pushes it into the
you
wrong period.
yeah, you could go with the kind of hat that you see right there next to her, with the huge I don't know, pom poms. I don't know what they are, flowers, something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it would make her look more like nobility rather than a witch. So I think they went with the feathers design more because it also reminds you of like a witch characteristic of having these familiars, either cats or ravens or something. So I
Yeah.
guess it brings it back to a more natural style rather than having it confused with some kind of aristocratic lady.
Yeah, I think it's very unique what they did with her. All right. And,
And you get to see the both dresses that Sophie wears.
oh, that's her later dress. Okay. Yeah, it's her as an old lady.
Yeah. But even when at the end of the movie when she is young again, she still has the old lady dress.
Hmm. When did she switch into the old lady dress? It's
Um
probably been a while since you've seen it, so okay, never mind.
yeah, no, it's been a while, but I'm thinking that she was walking and walking through the fields in the teal dress, and
Hmm.
then she ended up in Howl's castle. She was having this debate with Calcifer and she fell asleep. I don't know, like
So it was when
when
she
she changed her
became a maid
clothes.
for Hal.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, yeah, and that would be around the same time that the arc would begin, is because she falls in love and wants to protect him. Okay.
Oh, and one thing I want to say is that you know how we talked about the Maximilian movement,
Hmm.
yeah. You see patterns and trinkets and just a bunch of things layered together. So in Howell's design, he has those iconic earrings that you would say that they are like a lot for a man,
Hmm.
but they actually go so well because he has this kind of he is handsome in a way that you'd say has like this feminine quality to him too.
Right.
He's very delicate in his movements, so his charm comes from that, from being really precise and delicate and really looking after his appearance like women usually do. And he wears these simple clothes like a white shirt that has a really flamboyant cut and is just tailored really well, with a cloak that has some really flashy patterns on. So when you look at his design, he just looks like the room he lives in.
Hmm.
So everything ties together from his room to his personality to his costume.
Right. Yeah. So he carries that all around with him.
Yeah, those are my thoughts.
All right. Any takeaways that we can provide to the wildlings listening today from what we covered?
When you would like to make a costume more aesthetically pleasing, I would suggest looking more into art history because one, it's really interesting to see different art movements and how they were inspired and how they came to be, and also how they can inspire your art to kind of fall more into this well-defined path. So if you're having trouble with different elements of your design, try to look for the time period that you see these designs pop up first, and you'd gradually start to have a narrative with your costumes.
Yeah, it is a balancing act because you are playing with visual cues that evoke a certain time frame. So there's specific elements you want to make sure are incorporated to make it look right. But you also want to make it the characters unique, especially like main characters. And then you can go off and look for other influences that might have influenced them as a character. Maybe some other place that they've visited around that time frame that isn't seen in the place that they're currently living. But yeah, other influences that make sense and make them unique as well. Because I would say that Howl does, it's very Western European, but he does have lots of Eastern European influences, which adds a little bit to the whole idea of the wizardly mystique, and maybe even a little bit of like Japanese designs too. That kind of also makes them look a little bit more worldly as well. As opposed to Mrs. Plain Jane Sophie.
Plain Jane.
That's right. She's a plain Jane.
But you could figure out even from the beginning when they first met that Howl, with all his sparkly aesthetic, he would fall for the plain Jane Sophie.
Yeah.
Because sometimes opposites attract.
Yeah, I think he enjoyed her character more than her style. But yeah, I guess, is anything else we want to tap into?
That this movie is cool and you should watch it if you haven't.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I hadn't seen it until we discussed doing a video analysis of it, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm glad I haven't missed out, and I'll probably watch it again. I enjoyed it that much. There's lots of ideas in it that I like, story-wise, that aren't related
We
to.
can watch it together.
Yeah, that aren't related to the art, so not necessary to really cover today. But I want to do some more in-depth study of it outside of this video analysis.
Private study, private tutoring.
Yeah, maybe some of the ideas can be incorporated into the story of the Grove. We'll see. All right, are we wrapping it up?
Yep.
Thank you
With
for
a pretty bow, please.
yeah, a fancy dandy bow. Yeah, so thanks for joining us on our November video analysis of Howl's Moving Castle. And if we don't see you again on stream after this, we'll be sending you our December video analysis of Crimson Peak. And I hope you enjoy that.
Bye, guys.
Hope you enjoy that just as much. Yes, take care. See you soon.